Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Brad and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel for the very first time. Appreciate you stopping by and hanging out while I chat about some books. This is week number 3 for the book report. Keeping you all updated. I don't know why you want to know, but keeping you all updated with what I'm reading and what I've got going on in the book world. This week, it was a slow reading week. I was super busy at work. Like, our servers were down for our reps all week long, and so myself and my fellow supervisors had to make all the calls this week, which wasn't fun, not fun at all. So hopefully they have that fixed when we go back to work on Tuesday, because we're off for Martin Luther King Day on Monday. But not a super busy week reading wise, but I did finish up 2 books, and I also completed the Read What You Own challenge. Finally got to book number 25, so I'm excited about that. And I was so excited about that, I went out and bought a whole bunch of books. Bought a lot of books. And some of these, we'll go over them really quick, super quick, because otherwise this will be like a 40-minute video. But a lot of these are ones that I'm going to include that I want to read this year in my 25 books to read in 2025. So now that I've bought all these books, I'll be doing that video really soon. And speaking of videos, hopefully this one doesn't look too bad. It's really dull and overcast outside. I'm losing the light. I've got a ring light over there. Hopefully it doesn't look too terrible. So what do I want to talk about first? I've got some notes. So I don't think I've mentioned it on the book report videos yet. I know on the first one, week 1, I talked about what my goals had been for last year in 2024. And I don't know if I ever said what I wanted my goals to be for this year, 2025. I'm going to keep them simple. And I'm hoping to overachieve on these goals. So I'm undershooting what I want to do. But for this year, I want to read 25 books. Last year, that was my goal as well. Ended up reading 28. I would like to read way more than that. And then also on Storygraph, which I've been using, you can also set a page goal. I'd like to read 10,000 pages this year. Last year, I read just a little over 10,000 pages, like 10,060 or something like that. So 25 books and 10,000 pages, but obviously I'd like to read way more and crush those goals. But I wanted to start low so that way I'm not scrambling at the end of the year trying to cram in a bunch of books and feel stressed about it. Something that I feel like I can easily achieve and hopefully surpass by quite a bit. So that's my goals for this year, 25 books in 10,000 pages. So let's talk about some new books, because I'm excited about these. And I don't know if all of them are going to go on my 25 books I want to read this year, but a lot of them probably are. So I went to Joseph Beth and Barnes & Noble, Half Price Books, and then also my local library. They have a bookstore in there, and I picked up 1 or 2 in there, if I remember correctly. So let's see. We'll go ahead and start here. So first up, I picked up Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I've heard other people talk about this and that it's really good. It's a hockey book, or book about hockey in a small town. I'm a big sports fan. I'm not really into hockey, although when the Thoroughblades were here in Lexington, Kentucky, those were always really fun games to go to, but that team sadly isn't around anymore. But I've heard really good things about this one. Frederick Bachman, he's the author a lot of people talk about. And I didn't know that his books were translated. I just happened to be looking at like the first page, and it's got it translated by Neil Smith, which I didn't know that. But I do want to read the first sentence here, because I read that earlier today, and it really grabbed my attention. Makes me want to read this even more than I kind of already did. It says, late one evening toward the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead, and pulled the trigger. This is the story of how we got there. So that sounds awesome. Great hook. That's Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This one is called Empire of Dreams by Alvaro Enrique. I hope I'm saying his name right. But I saw this one. Ashley from Nightworms. I think her name on Instagram is like Coffee and something. She used to be called Spookish Mommy. But this one is like about the conquistadors coming in and conquering the Aztecs, like in like the 1500s. And I love Aztec society. I'm super interested in that, so I thought this one sounded like a really interesting read. That's Empire of Dream, or sorry, You Dream of Empires. I think Empire of Dreams is like a Star Wars documentary. You Dreamed of Empires by Alvaro Enrique. And speaking of Star Wars, nothing to do with books, but really quick, this week was the season finale for Skeleton Crew, which I've been watching every week with my kids on Disney Plus, and it was awesome. I love that show. It was just a lighthearted, fun, swashbuckling adventure, and I really, really enjoyed it, especially watching it with my kids. They were actually really excited in anticipation, waiting for every episode to come out every week, and we'd watch it together. And that's probably the most enjoyable thing that they've ever watched Star Wars wise. And that made me happy that I was enjoying it, but they were also really pumped into it. Even my 4-year-old, I was starting one of the episodes and, was doing like the previous land part. And he was in the other room. He screamed, "No, don't start without me." He ran in there. So that was really cool. Skeleton Crew, if you haven't watched it, it's super fun. Like I said, super entertaining, lighthearted. Even though it's got kids in it, it's not really a kid show. It's more like Goonies and E.T., stuff that we really liked growing up in the 80s. Definitely pays homage to those. So, sorry, sidetrack, but Skeleton Crew was an awesome show. Next up, I picked up The Fisherman by John Langan. I've heard this is an amazing book. I think it's like cosmic horror. Author Robert Ottone has been trying to get me to read this forever, and I finally picked it up, so I'll be reading that one. Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. This is a epic tale of medieval horror. I have a few of his other books, Black Tongue Thief and The Daughter's War. Where is it? I don't know where it is. Maybe it's, there it is. The Daughter's War. I think those are more fantasy, like, I'm not going to be able to think of the term, like grimdark fantasy, I think. And this one's more kind of horror. But I've heard cool things about this one, so I wanted to check that one out. Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward. I read her other book, Sing Unburied Sing. That was actually the first video I ever did on the channel, was a review for that one. It's probably a really terrible video, but I really liked her writing style, and I wanted to read more from her, so I picked up that one. And this one is Richard Yates' Revolutionary Road. This was on the same table as Salvage the Bones, and I don't know, something about the cover kind of drew me in. I don't know why. It's just a simple photo of an old car. I read the synopsis, and it sounds like something that's kind of out of my wheelhouse, but also something that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. So that one sounds interesting. I don't know if anybody's read this one. Let me know what you thought about that one. I picked up Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. Hopefully there's not a glare on there. I don't know. I can't see the camera. I can't see the camera. But was it last year? Last year, year before last, I read Legends and Lattes. I really, really enjoyed that one. So this is the prequel to that one. So I picked that one up. And then I got some hardcovers here. It's going to fall over. I picked up Small Mercies by Dennis Lehane. This is his newest novel. I've never read Dennis Lehane before, but I want to read some more crime stuff. A lot of his movies have been adapted to film, like Shutter Island. I'm terrible remembering stuff, I swear. What's the one with like Mystic River? That's the one I was thinking of. Gone Baby Gone is one. Live by Night. So a lot of stuff has been not translated to movies, has been adapted to film. And he's an author I've wanted to read for a while, so I picked up Small Mercies. Another crime book I picked up is City on Fire by Don Winslow. I know he has a few different series. I believe, hopefully, I got this one at my bookstore, the library. I think this is the start of a new series, and I don't know what it's about. Probably the mob and stuff like that up in New England. Crime and stuff. But this one sounded cool. City on Fire by Don Winslow. Another author I've never read. I mentioned this one last week. This is one I wanted to pick up. This is Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. I've heard this is amazing, and I love the title. The cover's really cool. So I picked up Chain Gang All-Stars. And got a few more here. I think 3 more. Hopefully they don't all fall on the floor. I picked up They're There by Tommy Orange. I believe he is a Native American author, if I'm not mistaken. It's a Pulitzer Prize finalist. I really haven't heard anything about this one, but kind of caught my interest. And then I picked up The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I feel like I've read a Toni Morrison book. I think I read Beloved, if I'm not mistaken. I really enjoyed her writing. I've heard people talk about this one. This one's really sad and just kind of a heart-wrenching little book. So I picked this one up, Bluest Eye. And then finally, the last one. This is one I'm maybe the most excited for out of all these. This is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This is one I wanted to read last year. If I finished the Read What You Own Challenge, which it took me a lot longer to do that than I was expecting, but finally picked this one up. A lot of people say this is like one of the greatest books of all time. And it's a Western, and after reading the book West by Carries Davies, I believe, I talked about that last week. I really want to read more stuff set in the American West, and you probably can't go wrong with this one. This one's probably like a quintessential Western you need to read. It's a big old chunk of a book. It's like 700 pages. And just on Instagram yesterday, I don't know who it was, but I was scrolling through, and someone had read like the first 40 pages of it and just said it was like the best 40 pages they'd ever read. So Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I'm super, super pumped to be diving into that one. And like I said, a lot of those, I don't know how many, but a lot of those are going to be on my 25 books I want to read this year. Honestly, I want to read all of them this year, but I want to read some of the ones I already own as well. So this week, what did I read? I said I had a busy week, but I did finish some books. Hopefully, hold on, let me move these before they all fall in the floor here. There we go. All right, so I did finish a couple books this week, even though I was busy at work. First up, I finished Scanlines by Todd Keisling. It's a short little novella. I could have read this one in one day, but like I said, I was busy, so I think I read it over 2 days. But this is definitely, a one-day read, a couple hours worth. It's not very long. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's a super dark book, super heavy, content you're reading about. It is about these 3 teenage boys, and they're trying to download this Jenna Jameson movie off the internet, trying to download some porn. They download the movie and play it, and it's not what they expected it to be. It's actually a video of I think it's a congressman who committed suicide on live broadcasts on TV, and someone had recorded it, and that's the video they downloaded, and it ends up really messing with them. It haunts them. They see this congressman's face all over the place, on TV, peering in the windows, on the faces of their friends and family and teachers and stuff, and they just all kind of spiral down out of control. They keep having dreams about themselves being in the place of the congressman and ending themselves, and it's just a really dark book. And I read the afterforward by Todd, and he said it was kind of like the physical manifestation of like depression. You kind of see it everywhere. Like if you are depressed, you kind of see it everywhere. You see it in the faces of everything and other people. And he kind of wanted to capture that kind of feelings he's had himself personally, and kind of capture that and that's kind of what fueled this book. And that is kind of what the book was about, kind of the physical manifestation of kind of depression, and seeing it everywhere, and it just gets worse and worse potentially as it goes on. But yeah, it was a really good book. If you need trigger warnings, I would definitely check that out. For me, I don't really need or care about those, but I understand the need for others for that. But I really enjoyed it. It's a good book. All Todd Keisling's stuff is dark. My favorite from him is still Devil's Creek. I read Devil's Creek, this, and his collection Cold, Dark, and Infinite. Where's it at? Cold, Black, and Infinite is his collection, and all those are really good. And he's got a new book coming out. I don't know if it's a novel or novella called The Sundowner's Dance coming out this year. That also sounds really cool. But definitely check out Todd's work. He's a great writer, especially if you like really dark stories. And then I also finished, this is the Spinebreakers book club pick for the first quarter of this year. I finished up Jurassic Park. And I've really, really enjoyed it. It's really, really different than the movie. A lot different than the movie. I think I'm biased. I liked the movie more. It's one of the rare occasions where I think the movie is better than the book. But it also has 30 years of bias behind it, where I watched it as a kid and loved it. And it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I did really enjoy the book. And there's lots of things that happen in Jurassic Park, the book, that you can see they took and put in all 3 of the first movies, from Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and then the 3rd Jurassic Park movie. Bits of all those are from this first story here. The characters, not only some of their physical appearances are different, like Alan Grant had a beard and Malcolm was like a short, bald guy, which was kind of throwing me for a loop. But Tim is the older brother and Lex is the younger sister in here, which was different than the movie. But Hammond, I feel like Hammond and Dr. Wu, Henry Wu, were kind of the 2 bigger ones that are different. Henry Wu plays a much bigger part in the book than he does in the movie, at least the first movie. He's kind of not a mad scientist, but he kind of wants to do like improvements on the dinosaurs. He doesn't think they're good enough. He wants to make them better so they're more entertaining, which I thought was interesting because in the movies, the later movies with like Chris Pratt, he's kind of like the villain in those. And I didn't really understand that from the first movie, so I can kind of see those villainous traits a little bit from the book, where he's wanting to make dinosaurs bigger and better and more entertaining. Can kind of see that. And then John Hammond, he was really different. He was kind of a douchebag in the book. And the movie's kind of this, gentle old man who just, wants his following his dreams and his imagination, wants his cool park for kids. But in here, he's much more kind of greedy, all about the money. And, even his grandkids, he's like, oh, damn it, they ruined this. And, he wished they would have never come to the park. So I thought his character was quite different. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm still going to be reading the second one, The Lost World. I don't know if I'll dive into that immediately or hold off for a little bit. But I'm glad I finally read Jurassic Park because I really, really enjoyed it. So that's what I read this week. And then what am I planning to read? I don't know what I'm going to try to read next because I got all these new books. So I don't know, but I think I am going to for sure read this one next. I talked about last week. I didn't get to it, but this is Pineville Trace by Wes Blake. He's a Kentucky author. This is a really short book. It's a novel. It's a novel in flash or novella in flash. So each chapter is really short, just a couple pages, but it's telling this overarching story. And it's about a former Southern revival preacher and confidence man who escapes from prison, goes on the run with his cat named Buffalo. I think that'll be a cool little book. I really dig the cover. The cover, I don't know, just the way it's laid out, the stylistically, pretty cool. So I'll probably read that one this week. I said last week that I was going to try to read In the Valley of the Sun by Annie Davidson. I still want to read this one. I don't know if I'll dive into this one now or if I'll pick one of these other newer books to dive into. But this one's still on my list to read for the year. I just don't know if I'm going to be reading it now or later. So we'll see on that one. I'm kind of like in the mood reading thing. I don't really want to set a TBR and just pick up, whatever I'm feeling at the time. So we'll see for this week. Definitely, I think I'm going to get to Pineville Trace. Other than that, I don't know. So we'll find out next week what I ended up reading. But I think that's it. I think that's all I've got to talk about. Yeah, so I'm excited. Got all these new books. I finally completed the Read What You Own challenge. So I'll have some new videos coming out for you all later this week. That's it. That's all I have for you guys today. So appreciate you spending your time with me and hanging out. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.